The morning shift on research station Kepler 442 started like any other morning. Ships came and went through the massive docking bay. Workers from 100 different worlds moved through the corridors. Some had scales, some had fur, some were just floating clouds of gas in containment suits. The station was home to 12,000 beings, all working together in the name of science and peace. Daejung stood in his small restaurant kitchen, chopping vegetables for the lunch rush. His restaurant, Earth's Corner, occupied a tiny space on the commercial level. It wasn't fancy, just 10 tables, a small kitchen, and walls decorated with pictures of Earth. But it was his, and he took pride in every dish that left his kitchen. His cousin Hyun walked in through the back door, carrying a box of supplies. Hyun was younger, still learning the trade, but he had good instincts in the kitchen. He set the box down on the counter with a grunt. "More deliveries at the dock," Hyun said. "I'll go get them. Check the manifest first." Daejung called after him. "Last week they sent us Rigelian salt instead of sea salt. Nobody could eat anything for 3 days." Hyun waved a hand and disappeared back into the corridor. Daejung continued his prep work. He had 30 portions of bulgogi to prepare, kimchi to check on, and a special batch of stew that needed attention. Running a restaurant on a space station meant working with whatever you could get. Fresh ingredients from Earth cost a fortune. Most of what he used came from the station's hydroponic farms or was shipped frozen from human colonies. 20 minutes later, Hyun returned with a loading drone carrying 3 boxes. The drone beeped twice and floated away. Hyun started opening the boxes, checking contents against his tablet. Soy sauce, check. Sesame oil, check. Rice, check. He paused at the 4th box, which wasn't on his tablet. "Hey, what's this?" Daejung looked up. The box was different from the others. It was made of metal instead of plastic, and it had several warning labels on the sides. Hyun tilted his head, reading the labels. Biohazard level 9. "What does that mean?" "Probably not food," Daejung said, wiping his hands on his apron. "Let me see." He walked over and examined the box. The labels were in standard galactic script, which he could read well enough. There were warnings about containment protocols, handling procedures, and emergency contacts. But there was also a shipping label with his restaurant's dock number on it. "This can't be right," he muttered. "Why would they send this to us?" "Maybe it's a mistake?" Hyun suggested. "Obviously it's a mistake. But let's see what's inside before we call it in." Kram. Daejung found the release mechanism and opened the metal box. Inside was a smaller container, made of clear material, about the size of a jar. It held a purple crystalline substance that seemed to fizz slightly, like it was alive. The substance caught the light and sparkled. A label on the jar read, "Verath 7 fungal extract. Necrotic on contact. Caustic properties. Respiratory failure in 90 seconds. Lethal to all known species. Do not open outside containment facility." Daejung carefully picked up the jar and held it up to the light. The purple crystals shifted inside. He turned it around, examining it from every angle. Then he did something that would later be described by station security as typically human and completely insane. He opened the jar. Hyun jumped back. "Are you crazy? It says lethal. It's sealed in crystal form. It's not going to jump out and attack us." His eyes widened. "Wait. Hyun. Come. Smell this." "I'm not smelling the death jar. Just trust me." Carefully, Hyun edged forward like the jar might explode. He took a tiny sniff and pulled back. Then he sniffed again, longer this time. His expression changed from fear to confusion. "Is that fermented?" Hyun asked. "Right? It smells like gochugaru. That fermented red pepper grandma used to make." Daejung took another sniff. "There's something else too. Maybe fish sauce? Or doenjang? It smells like food," Hyun said. Still not quite believing it, Daejung carried the jar to his workspace. He found a small spoon and carefully extracted a few crystals. They fizzed when they hit the metal spoon, releasing a stronger aroma. He grabbed a clean plate and sprinkled the crystals on it, then added a few drops of water. The crystals dissolved into a thick, purple paste. The smell intensified, filling the kitchen with a pungent, savory aroma that made Daejung's mouth water. "That's umami," he said quietly. "Strong umami. This is a seasoning. It's a biohazard," Hyun protested. "Biohazard is just a label. You know what else is technically a biohazard? Kimchi. Blue cheese. Any fermented food." Daejung touched the paste with his finger, rubbing it between his thumb and forefinger. "The texture is right. The smell is right. I think this is edible. For humans? Who else would I test it on?" Daejung walked to his stove, where a large pot of stew was simmering. It was a base recipe, meant to be finished with whatever seasonings felt right. He held the plate over the pot. "We season our food with things that would kill most aliens anyway. Remember when Ji-woo told us about that Centaurian who tried our kimchi and had to go to medical? That's different. That was just spicy. To us. To him, it was poison." Daejung made his decision. He scraped the purple paste into the stew and stirred. The stew's color changed, becoming richer and deeper. The aroma that rose from the pot was incredible. A complex mixture of savory, fermented, and umami flavors that made both of them lean in closer. Hyun watched his cousin with growing concern. "If you die, I'm not explaining this to your mother. I'm not going to die. Our ancestors ate things that tried to eat them first. This is just fermented fungus." Daejung ladled some stew into a small bowl, blew on it to cool it, and took a sip. For a moment, nothing happened. Hyun held his breath. Then Daejung's face lit up with pure joy. "This is amazing. Hyun, you have to try this. It's like someone took every good part of doenjang, gochujang, and soy sauce and combined them into one ingredient." He took another spoonful, savoring it. "The depth of flavor is incredible. There's salt. There's sweet. There's that fermented funk we love. And the umami, it's not just strong, it's complex. Layered. You're really not dead?" Hyun asked. "Do I look dead? Here, try it." Daejung offered the bowl. Hyun took it nervously and sipped. His eyes widened. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Right?" Daejung was already moving around the kitchen with renewed energy. "I can use this in everything. Marinades, stews, soups, even as a finishing salt. This is going to revolutionize the menu. Shouldn't we maybe ask someone if this is safe first?" Hyun suggested. "It is safe, for us anyway. I feel fine. Better than fine, actually. I feel great." Daejung stirred the large pot of stew, already planning the lunch service. "We'll serve this today. Special menu. If anyone asks, it's a new seasoning from Earth." "That's not exactly a lie," Hyun admitted. "Not exactly the truth either. But close enough." Neither of them noticed the small detail that would soon become very important. The empty metal box had a tracking device embedded in its side, and somewhere in the station's biological containment wing, that tracking device had just triggered an alarm. In the biological containment wing of Station Kepler 442, Velthar was having a very bad day. The insectoid supervisor stood in front of a wall of monitors, his compound eyes scanning each screen with growing horror. One of them showed a flashing red alert that made his mandibles click together in distress. "Explain this to me again," he said to his assistant, a floating jellyfish-like being named Prol. "The Level 9 biohazard shipment from Vareth 7 arrived this morning," Prol said, their tentacles gesturing at the screens. "It was supposed to come directly to containment, but the tracking shows it was delivered to Dock 47. Commercial sector. The commercial sector," Velthar repeated slowly. "Where beings eat and shop and exist without protective equipment. Yes, Supervisor. And the container has been opened. Yes, Supervisor. Velthar felt what humans might call a migraine forming behind his eyes. He had been managing dangerous biological materials for 20 years. He had handled plagues, toxins, and organisms that could dissolve metal. But nothing terrified him more than human error mixed with deadly substances. Lock down the sector. Alert station security. Get medical teams ready. He grabbed his emergency communicator. And someone find out who opened that container before we have to sterilize an entire wing of the station. 10 minutes later, Ji-woo received the emergency alert on her tablet. She was in the middle of inspecting a waste recycling system. Arguably the least exciting part of her job as a safety inspector. The alert changed that immediately. She read it twice to make sure she understood. Then she ran. Ji-woo reached the commercial sector to find security drones already cordoning off the area. Workers and shoppers were being moved away from the center of attention, which was, unfortunately, very familiar to her. No, she whispered. Please don't be Earth's corner. It was Earth's corner. She pushed through the security line, showing her credentials. Velthar was already there, wearing a full hazmat suit and holding a scanner. 3 more containment specialists stood behind him, also suited up. They all looked terrified. Is anyone inside? Ji-woo asked. 2 humans, Velthar said. Life signs are stable, but that means nothing with a level 9 biohazard. They might already be dead, and just don't know it yet. That's not how death works. It is with Varath 7 fungus. Velthar's voice crackled through his suit's speaker. 90 seconds to respiratory failure. The toxins attack the nervous system while breaking down cellular walls. It's one of the most dangerous organic substances we've ever classified. Ji-woo felt her stomach drop. She knew one of the humans inside had to be Dae-jung. She'd been eating at his restaurant 3 times a week for the past year. He made the only decent kimchi this side of Earth. I'm going in, she said. You'll need a suit. No time. She pushed past him and opened the restaurant door. The first thing that hit her was the smell. Not death, not chemical burns, not any of the things she expected. Instead, she smelled cooking. Good cooking. The rich, savory aroma of a stew that had been simmering for hours. Dae-jung stood at the stove, stirring a large pot. Hyun was chopping green onions at the counter. Both of them looked up when she entered. Ji-woo, Dae-jung smiled. Perfect timing. I'm testing a new recipe. Want to try it? Ji-woo stared at him. He was supposed to be dying. He was supposed to be on the floor, convulsing, his organs shutting down. Instead, he was offering her soup. Dae-jung, she said carefully. Did you open a metal box with biohazard warnings on it? Oh, that? Yeah. Turned out to be a really good seasoning. He gestured at the pot. I've been using it all morning. Already served about 12 bowls to the lunch crowd. Everyone loves it. You served it to people? To humans, yes. I wouldn't give it to aliens. I'm not stupid. He ladled some stew into a bowl. But seriously, you should try this. The umami depth is incredible. Ji-woo's training took over. She pulled out her medical scanner and pointed it at Dae-jung. He stood still, looking mildly annoyed, while she ran a full bioscan. The results made no sense. His vital signs were normal. Better than normal, actually. His digestive markers showed improved efficiency. There were no toxins in his bloodstream, no cellular damage, no signs of necrotic tissue. He was healthier than he'd been at his last checkup. This isn't possible, she muttered. What isn't possible? Dae-jung asked. Before she could answer, Velthar burst through the door with his containment team. They stopped when they saw Dae-jung calmly holding a bowl of stew. Step away from the human, Velthar commanded. I am human, Dae-jung pointed out. The other human, then. Hyun raised his hands. I'm fine too. We both tried the new seasoning. It's really good. Velthar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress in his species. You ingested the Varath 7 fungal extract? The substance marked Level 9. Biohazard? If that's what was in the jar, then yes, Daejung said. Is there a problem? Is there a... Velthar couldn't finish the sentence. He turned to his team. Full decontamination protocol. Get them to medical immediately. What followed was the most thorough medical examination Daejung had ever experienced. They scanned every part of his body. They took blood samples, tissue samples, and samples he didn't even know could be sampled. They ran tests that hadn't been invented yet. Through it all, Daejung sat patiently in a medical gown, answering questions. When did you first open the container? Asked Dr. Yoon, the station's human physician. About 3 hours ago. And you felt no burning sensation? No difficulty breathing? No. It just smelled good. It smelled good. Dr. Yoon repeated, making notes. And you decided to eat it, to cook with it, Daejung corrected. I wouldn't eat it raw. That would be weird. In the observation room, Velthar watched through the glass with growing confusion. Jiwoo stood beside him, equally baffled. Every test shows he's perfectly healthy, Doctor. Yoon's voice came through the speaker. In fact, his gut biome is showing increased diversity. The fungal extract seems to have introduced beneficial microorganisms. Beneficial? Velthar's voice rose an octave. It's designed to kill. Designed by evolution. Not intelligence. Jiwoo said quietly. What kills one species might feed another. Station Administrator Rix arrived, his reptilian features set in a scowl. He was a Draken, a species known for their strict adherence to rules and regulations. This situation was his worst nightmare. Explain, he demanded. Jiwoo pulled up the test results on a display. Daejung and Hyun both ingested a level 9 biohazard approximately 3 hours ago. Neither shows any signs of poisoning, cellular damage, or distress. Furthermore, Daejung used the substance to prepare food, which he then served to 12 other humans. All 12 are currently in waiting rooms, also showing no ill effects. This is impossible, Rick said. Apparently not. Velthar pulled up a database on his tablet. Let me check something. Verath 7 fungal extract works by releasing enzymes that break down protein chains. The spores enter the respiratory system and begin reproduction immediately. Death follows within minutes for most species. He scrolled through his data. But human digestive systems. Evolved on Earth, Jiwoo finished. A planet where nearly everything was trying to kill everything else. We developed stomach acid strong enough to break down almost any organic compound. We eat fermented foods, moldy cheeses, rotted fish, vegetables soaked in brine for months. You eat rot? Rix looked disgusted. Controlled rot. There's a difference. Jiwoo pulled up an image of kimchi. This is one of our most common foods. It's cabbage that's been sitting in salt and bacteria for weeks or months. The bacteria are technically alive when we eat it. That's revolting, Velthar said. That's survival. Jiwoo countered. Our ancestors learned to preserve food by letting specific microorganisms break it down before harmful ones could. We've been eating living bacteria for thousands of years. Our digestive systems treat it as normal. In the examination room, Daejung was getting frustrated. Can I go back to work now? I have a dinner service to prepare. Absolutely not, Dr. Yoon said. Then can someone bring me my knives? I can prep vegetables here. You want to cook while under medical observation? I want to do something useful. I'm not sick. I'm not dying. Dr. Yoon looked at Velthar through the observation window. The insectoid supervisor's antennae drooped in defeat. This is going to require a council meeting, Rick said grimly. If humans can safely consume level 9 biohazards, we need to completely rethink our classification system. Or, Jiwoo suggested, we accept that danger is relative. What kills a Draken might season a human's soup. Rix didn't look happy about that suggestion. But as they watched Daejung successfully negotiate for his knives and a cutting board, it was clear that the simple explanation was also the correct one. Humans were just built different. Dr. Quinn had spent 40 years studying biology across the galaxy. She was an amphibian from Nexara Prime, a species known for their analytical minds and patient approach to science. In all those years, she had never encountered anything quite as fascinating as human digestion. She arrived at the medical bay 3 hours after the incident, carrying a datapad full of questions. Dae-jung was still there, now surrounded by cutting boards and vegetables. True to his word, he was prepping for dinner service from his hospital bed. "Mr. Dae-jung," Quinn said, her voice coming out in croaks and clicks that the translator rendered into standard. "I'm Dr. Quinn. I study xenobiology. Would you mind if I asked you some questions?" Dae-jung looked up from dicing carrots. "Will it get me out of here faster?" "Possibly. I want to understand why you survived something that should have killed you." "I didn't survive anything. I just ate some fermented fungus." He gestured at an empty chair. "But sure, ask away. I've got nothing but time and vegetables." Quinn settled into the chair and activated her recording device. "Tell me about your diet on Earth." "My diet?" Dae-jung hadn't expected that question. "I ate normal food. Korean food, mostly. Rice, vegetables, meat, kimchi, all the usual stuff." "Describe kimchi for me." "It's fermented cabbage. You take Napa cabbage, salt it, wash it, then pack it with a mixture of red pepper, garlic, ginger, and fish sauce. Then you let it sit for days or weeks while bacteria break it down. The longer it ferments, the stronger it gets." Quinn made notes. "And you eat this regularly?" "Every day of my life since I was 3 years old." "It's not just kimchi, either. We eat doenjang. That's fermented soybean paste. Gochujang, fermented pepper paste. Jodgal, fermented seafood. My grandmother used to make this stuff in huge clay pots in the backyard. The smell was incredible. There were load, maybe contenter, to you, perhaps. To me, fermented food smells like decay." "It is decay," Dae-jung said cheerfully. "Controlled decay. That's the whole point. You let the right bacteria grow so the wrong bacteria don't get a chance. It's food preservation that became food culture." Quinn's eyes widened behind her protective membranes. "You intentionally consume decay? Don't all species? Cheese is moldy milk. Bread needs yeast, which is alive. Beer, wine, vinegar, all fermented. Even chocolate has to ferment before you can eat it. Those are human foods? Well, yes. Don't other species ferment things? No," Quinn said slowly. "Most species avoid fermentation. The risk of harmful bacteria is too high. We eat fresh food, or preserved through freezing, drying, or chemical treatment. The idea of deliberately cultivating bacteria to eat is unusual." Dae-jung stopped cutting vegetables and looked at her. "You're telling me humans are the only species that figured out fermentation?" "Not the only species, but one of very few. And perhaps the only species to make it such a central part of their food culture." Quinn pulled up a diagram on her datapad. "This is the Vereth 7 fungus at a molecular level. Do you see these enzyme chains? They break down proteins by attacking peptide bonds. When inhaled or absorbed through skin, they cause immediate cellular damage. But when ingested by a human..." She pulled up a second diagram showing human stomach acid at work. "Your digestive system is remarkably hostile. The acid in your stomach has a pH between 1 and 2. That's strong enough to dissolve metal. The Vereth 7 enzymes break down completely before they can cause any harm. In fact, the breakdown products are amino acids that your body can use as nutrients. So it's not just safe, it's nutritious. In a way, yes. Your body treated a deadly biohazard as a protein source." Quinn looked fascinated. "But there's more. The fungal spores that would normally colonize respiratory tissue were neutralized by your mucous membranes. Your immune system didn't even register them as a threat. And in your gut, the fungal matter actually increased the diversity of your microbiome. You have beneficial bacteria in your digestive system that processed the fungus and produced additional compounds. What kind of compounds? Primarily compounds that enhance umami taste receptors. That's why you found it so flavorful. Your gut bacteria and the fungus had a symbiotic interaction that created what is essentially a flavor enhancer. Daejung grinned. So, what you're saying is, I have bacteria in my stomach that made the biohazard taste better. In simplified terms, yes. That's amazing. He went back to his vegetables with renewed energy. Can I get more of the fungus? I want to experiment with it. Absolutely not, said Velthar, who had been listening from the doorway. That substance is classified as a level 9 biohazard. It cannot be used for cooking, but I already used it for cooking, Daejung pointed out. And I served it to 12 people, all of whom are fine. Luck. Pure luck. It's not luck, Quinn said. It's biology. Supervisor. I'd like to request permission to conduct a formal study. I want to test human responses to various classified biohazards. I. Absolutely not. For science, Quinn added. Velthar's mandibles clicked in agitation. Do you have any idea how many regulations you're proposing to violate? Several dozen, at least. But the scientific value would be immeasurable. We've classified substances as deadly because they're deadly to most species. But if humans can safely consume even a fraction of these substances, our entire classification system needs revision. Jiwoo entered the room, looking tired. She'd been dealing with station security for the past few hours, explaining why there was no actual emergency, despite the level 9 biohazard alert. I hate to say it, but Dr. Quinn has a point, Jiwoo said. We can't just lock Daejung up forever. And if we let him go back to his restaurant, we need to know what other dangerous substances might actually be safe for human consumption. This is madness, Velthar said. This is reality, Jiwoo countered. Humans eat things that kill other species. We always have. Remember the Centaurian incident with the kimchi? Or the time a Draken tried hot sauce and needed medical intervention? Or when that Nexaran tasted cheese and went into anaphylactic shock? All of those were clearly labeled as human food, Velthar protested. So was the Verath 7 fungus, as far as Daejung was concerned. He read biohazard and thought fermented. To him, they're synonyms. Quinn croaked with what might have been laughter. She's right. From a human perspective, most fermented foods would classify as biohazards to other species. The Verath 7 fungus simply happens to be a fermented food that other species classified as deadly before humans encountered it. Velthar looked between the three of them, his antennae drooping further with each passing second. Finally, he made a decision that would change station policy forever. Fine. Dr. Quinn, you have permission for a limited study. But, he held up a manipulator limb. It must be conducted under strict supervision, only with volunteers. And if anyone dies, this program ends immediately. Agreed, Quinn said. I volunteer, Daejung said immediately. On one condition. I get to keep cooking with the fungus. Why would you want to keep cooking with it? Velthar asked. Because it's delicious. Because my customers loved it. And because I've been cooking with weird ingredients my whole life. This is just one more. Daejung smiled. Daejung. Plus, if I'm going to be part of a scientific study, I might as well be a useful part. I can test the fungus in different preparations. Different cooking methods, different combinations with other ingredients. That's valuable data, right, Dr. Quinn? Very valuable, Quinn agreed. Different preparation methods might affect the breakdown of compounds. Testing it in various dishes would help us understand the full range of human digestive capabilities. Jiwoo pulled up a form on her tablet. I'll need to file this as an experimental food permit. Daejung, your restaurant will be designated as a research facility for the duration of the study. You'll need to keep detailed records of every dish you make with the fungus. Who eats it? Their reactions. Any side effects. I can do that. And you'll need warning signs. Any food containing the fungus has to be clearly marked as experimental and for human consumption only. That's fair. And regular medical checkups? Weekly, at minimum. Fine. Velthar watched this exchange with growing horror. You're actually going to allow this? I don't see an alternative, Jiwoo said. We can't stop humans from being human. We can only try to make it as safe as possible for everyone else. The station administrator will never approve this. Then I'll talk to him, Daejung said. I'm good at convincing people. How do you think I got approval to serve kimchi in the first place? That night, Earth's Corner reopened with a new menu item. A small sign on the counter read, Special Research Menu, Fungal Stew, Humans Only. Part of Xenobiological Study. Eat at your own risk. The line stretched down the corridor. Every human on the station wanted to try the Biohazard stew. The line outside Earth's Corner had become a permanent fixture. 3 weeks after the incident, Daejung's restaurant was the most popular establishment on station Kepler 442, at least among humans. The other species viewed it with a mixture of horror and fascination. Like watching someone juggle live grenades. The success hadn't gone unnoticed or unopposed. Station Administrator Rix stood in the council chamber, facing representatives from 40 different species. Behind him, a large screen showed footage of Earth's Corner, with humans happily eating bowls of purple stew that registered as Level 9 Biohazard on every scanner in the station. This cannot continue, said Ambassador Krell, a crystalline being who represented the Silicon Confederacy. The presence of a known deadly substance in a public eating establishment violates every safety protocol we've established. The substance is only deadly to non-humans. Rix corrected, though he didn't sound happy about it. All human subjects have shown no adverse effects. That's not the point. Krell's voice chimed like breaking glass. The precedent is dangerous. If humans can cook with Level 9 biohazards, what's to stop them from using Level 10? Level 15? Where does it end? There is no Level 15, Dr. Quinn pointed out from her seat in the gallery. The scale only goes to 12. Which humans will probably use as hot sauce, muttered Ambassador Thren, a furred mammalian from Kalos. Several council members made sounds of agreement. Jiwoo sat in the human delegation section, watching the proceedings with growing frustration. She'd known this hearing was coming. 3 different species had filed formal complaints about Earth's Corner. The council had no choice but to address it. The problem was that most of the council had never actually dealt with humans before. Station Kepler 442 was a relatively new posting, and Earth was a recent addition to the galactic community. The council members had theoretical knowledge of humans but no practical experience. They didn't understand that what they saw as reckless danger was actually just Tuesday for most humans. I call Daejung of Earth's Corner to present his defense, Rix announced. Daejung walked to the center of the chamber. He wore his chef's whites, freshly pressed for the occasion. He carried a large thermal container and a bag full of supplies. Jiwoo felt a moment of worry. She'd advised him to dress formally, to show respect for the proceedings. Of course, he'd shown up ready to cook. Honored council members, Daejung began. I understand your concerns. You see me cooking with something classified as deadly, and you worry. That makes sense. But I'd like to offer some perspective. He opened his thermal container and pulled out several smaller containers. This is gochujang, fermented red pepper paste. It's been fermenting for 6 months. This is doenjang, fermented soybean paste, 3 years old. This is jiotgal, fermented shrimp. This particular batch is from my grandmother's recipe and has been aging for 5 years. He set them on a table provided for demonstrations. If you scan these right now, what would your instruments tell you? Velthar, attending as the biological safety expert, reluctantly pulled out his scanner. He ran it over the containers one by one. His expression grew more disturbed with each reading. Active bacterial colonies. Elevated pH levels. Compounds consistent with decomposition. Multiple organisms that would be classified as infectious agents in most species. He looked up at the council. These would all register as biohazards, perhaps level 4 or 5. But to humans, they're just food, Daejung said. Food we've been eating for thousands of years. My ancestors survived by learning to preserve food through fermentation. We took the natural process of decay and controlled it, guided it, made it safe, and in the process, we created some of the most complex and flavorful foods in human culture. This is different, Krell insisted. These are cultivated foods. The Varath 7 fungus is a wild organism. So was every fermented food when humans first discovered it, Daejung countered. Someone, somewhere, thousands of years ago, ate something that had gone bad and realized it was actually good. That first person was taking just as much risk as I took opening that jar. Maybe more, because they didn't have medical teams standing by. He pulled out a portable cooking unit and set it on the table. With the council's permission, I'd like to demonstrate something. Rix looked uncertain but nodded. Proceed. Daejung began cooking. He started with a simple base. Rice and vegetables. Then he added each fermented ingredient in turn, explaining as he went. This is gochujang. In Korea, every family has their own recipe. Some are sweet, some are savory, some are so spicy they'll make you cry. But they're all made the same way. Peppers, soybeans, rice, salt, and time. Lots of time. He stirred the mixture. The bacteria do the work. They break down complex molecules into simpler ones. They create new flavor compounds. They preserve the food and make it more nutritious in the process. He added the doenjang. This one is funkier. Earthier. It smells like basement to some people, like umami heaven to others. It takes years to develop this depth of flavor. You can't rush it. You can't fake it. You need time and bacteria and patience. Finally, he added a small amount of the Varath 7 fungus paste. The mixture in the pan turned a deeper color, and the aroma intensified dramatically. And this, he said, is just one more fermented ingredient. It happens to come from another planet. But the principle is the same. Organisms breaking down organic matter to create something new, something flavorful, something that my body knows how to handle. Because my ancestors spent millennia training our digestive systems to handle exactly this kind of thing. He turned off the heat and spooned the mixture into several small bowls. I can't ask you to eat this. It would probably kill most of you, but I can tell you that what looks like poison to your scanners tastes like home to me. The chamber was silent. Then Ambassador Thren spoke up. I don't doubt your sincerity, Chef. But sincerity doesn't change biology. What you're eating is dangerous. To you. Daejung agreed. But danger is relative, isn't it? This station has a Matherian quarter, where the atmosphere would kill me in seconds. There's a high-pressure zone for deep-sea species where I'd be crushed instantly. The radiation levels in the silicon sector would give me cancer. We all have different needs and different tolerances. Why should food be any different? Because food can be carried, Krell said. A human could bring your biohazard stew into a public area. The container could break. Others could be exposed. The same is true of your silicon dust supplements, Ji Woo interjected, standing up. If a human inhaled that dust, we'd develop respiratory damage. But we don't ban it. We just require proper containment and labeling. That's different. How? Explain to me how it's different. Krell's crystalline structure flickered, a sign of agitation. The silicon supplements are necessary for my species' survival, and fermented foods are necessary for human culture, Jiwoo shot back. You can't separate humans from fermentation. It's in our history, our traditions, our family recipes. Banning humans from using fermented ingredients isn't just impractical, It's asking us to stop being human. Before Krell could respond, the chamber doors opened. A human in a formal suit walked in, flanked by 2 assistants. He was older, with gray hair and the bearing of someone used to authority. Ambassador Tae-min, Rick said, clearly surprised. We didn't expect you. I was told there was a hearing about human food culture, Tae-min said dryly. As Earth's representative to this sector, I felt I should attend. He looked around the chamber, though I'm disappointed I had to hear about it through informal channels, rather than official notification. Rix had the grace to look embarrassed. It was meant to be a simple administrative matter. Nothing involving humans is simple. Tae-min walked to stand beside Dae-jung. I've been reviewing the case files. Let me see if I understand correctly. A human accidentally received a shipment of biological material. He recognized it as similar to fermented foods from Earth. He consumed it and suffered no ill effects. He then shared it with other humans, all of whom were fine. And now the Council wants to ban this substance because it's dangerous to non-humans. Is that accurate? ADA. One of the compli. ADA. Simplified, but yes. Rix admitted. Then let me simplify further. Tae-min pulled up a document on the chamber's main screen. This is Earth's classification as a Class 4 death world. Do you all know what that means? Tae-min. Why? Tae-min. 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 Silence. It means Earth is one of the most hostile planets in known space that still developed sapient life. High gravity. Aggressive predators. Toxic plants. Extreme weather. Tectonic instability. Our planet tried to kill us every day, and we survived by being more stubborn than everything else. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. We didn't just survive. We thrived. We took organisms that evolved to poison us and turned them into crops. We domesticated animals that could kill us. We built cities in places where nothing should live. And yes, we ate things that tried to eat us first. He gestured at Dae-jung's cooking. Fermented food is a perfect example. We took decay, the thing every species fears, and made it useful. We turned rot into preservation, death into life, poison into flavor. That's not reckless. That's survival. But the risk to other species, Krell began, is manageable. Tae-min interrupted. The same way we manage every other species-specific danger on this station. Clear labeling, proper containment, common sense. If humans can coexist with your silicon dust and the metherian ammonia and the deep pressure zones, you can coexist with our fermented fungus. The council chamber filled with the multilingual sounds of discussion. 3 months had changed everything. Earth's corner had expanded into the space next door, doubling its seating capacity. Dae-jung now employed 6 human cooks, each one trained in the art of what the galactic community had started calling extreme cuisine. The small restaurant had become a destination, a place where aliens came to watch humans casually consume substances that would kill any other species. The viewing gallery had been Bo-Ra's idea. She was a molecular gastronomist from New Sol Colony, and she understood spectacle as well as flavor. The gallery allowed non-human guests to watch the kitchen through reinforced glass, safe from any potential contamination, while still experiencing the theater of human cooking. Table 7 wants extra fungus on their bibimbap, Hyun called out, working the line with practiced efficiency. Tell them maximum safe concentration is already applied. Bo-Ra responded from her station. Any more, and it'll overpower the other flavors. Dae-jung smiled, listening to his expanded teamwork. The council hearing had ended with a compromise. Humans could use reclassified biohazards in cooking, but only in designated establishments with proper safety measures. Earth's Corner was the first, and so far, only restaurant to receive the license. The designation read, Extreme Cuisine Facility. Humans only. Enter at own risk. The warnings hadn't deterred anyone. If anything, they'd increased interest. Ji-woo sat at her usual table, working through a bowl of the fungus stew that had started everything. It had been officially renamed Varath Jige on the menu. She was filling out inspection reports when her communicator buzzed with an urgent message. Military priority. Report to Docking Bay 12. Immediately. She found Daejung in the kitchen. I have to go. Military situation. He looked up from the soup he was stirring. Everything okay? Don't know yet. Save me some of the seafood pancakes for later. Will do. Stay safe. Docking Bay 12 held a military transport ship with Galactic Defense Force markings. A group of officers stood near the airlock, and Jiwoo recognized the species mix. Drakons, Nexerons, Matharians in environment suits, and a few others. What caught her attention was the human among them. A woman in military uniform with colonel's insignia. Inspector Jiwoo? The colonel asked. Yes, ma'am. Colonel Min Seo, GDF Medical Corps. I need your help with a situation. She gestured to the transport. We have a biological crisis on Thresh. Are you familiar with it? The disputed border world? I've heard of it. There's a fungal plague spreading through the surface installations. It's killing soldiers from every species deployed there, except humans. Minseo pulled up a holographic display. Human Marines report the fungus is edible with hot sauce. Does that sound familiar? Jiwoo felt a headache forming. Very familiar. You need to talk to Daejung. 40. Aznotavins 22. Aznotavins Unparda. An hour later, Daejung stood on the bridge of the transport, surrounded by military brass. He looked deeply uncomfortable in the formal setting, but he listened carefully as Colonel Minseo explained the situation. The fungus appeared 6 weeks ago. It grows fast, spreads through spores, and kills most species within hours of exposure. We've tried everything. Antibiotics, radiation, chemical treatments. Nothing works. The fungus adapts faster than we can develop countermeasures. But humans are immune? Daejung asked. Not immune. Just unaffected. We have reports of human soldiers collecting the fungus and eating it. She pulled up a video file. The footage showed a human Marine, a young man with sergeant stripes, scraping fungus off a wall into a container. He was humming while he worked. Another Marine walked past and asked what he was doing. Making plague jerky, the sergeant said cheerfully. The growths dry out nice if you leave them in the sun. Tastes like mushroom with a kick. Is that safe? The other Marine asked. Safer than the ration packs. Those give me heartburn. Daejung watched the video with growing fascination. Can I see a sample of this fungus? Minseo nodded to an assistant, who brought out a sealed containment unit. Inside was a mass of gray-green fungus that pulsed slightly, as if breathing. Warning labels covered every surface of the container. This is a live sample. Level 8. Biohazard. Do not open. Outside containment. Daejung examined it through the container's transparent surface. Does it smell? Strongly. Most species find the odor nauseating. Can you open it for just a second? In a contained space? Minseo looked at Jiwoo, who shrugged. They moved to a small airlock designed for hazmat work. Minseo opened the container, just enough for air to escape. The smell hit Daejung immediately. His eyes widened. That's fermented, strongly fermented. Almost like doenjang, mixed with something earthier. Truffle, maybe? There's a mineral note, too. You can identify all that from smell? Minseo asked. I'm a chef. Smell is half the job. Daejung leaned closer. This isn't just edible. I bet it's nutritious. The texture looks dense, probably high protein. The pulsing suggests active bacterial or fungal processes, which means it's producing enzymes. Enzymes that human digestion can handle. You think you can neutralize it? Minseo asked. Better than that. I think I can make it safe for non-human consumption. Daejung's mind was already working through the possibilities. Fermentation is about controlling microorganisms. If I can guide the fungus through a specific fermentation process, I can break down the compounds that make it deadly to other species while preserving the nutritional value. That's a big if. It's what my grandmother did with cabbage and salt. Same principle. Different organism. He looked at the kernel. I'll need samples. A lot of them. And I'll need to work on thresh. I have to see how the fungus grows naturally. What it feeds on. How it spreads. You can't develop a food preservation technique in a lab. You need to understand the ingredient first. 2 days later, Daejung, Hyun, and Jiwoo landed on Thresh. The planet was cold, windy, and covered in military installations that were slowly being consumed by fungus. Human Marines greeted them with enthusiasm. "You're the chef from the station?" asked a Marine named Sung-ho. "The one who cooks with biohazards?" "That's me," Daejung confirmed. "Thank God. The rations here are awful. Please tell me you can make the plague fungus taste better." "I can try. Show me where it grows." What followed was the strangest cooking lesson Daejung had ever given. He taught soldiers how to harvest fungus safely, how to dry it, how to recognize the growth stages that produced the best flavor. He showed them fermentation techniques using materials available on site. Within a week, the human encampments smelled like a Korean grandmother's backyard. "You're fermenting the plague," Colonel Min Seo said, watching Daejung work with large clay pots he'd had shipped from the station. "I'm controlling the fermentation that's already happening," Daejung corrected. "The plague spreads because it's trying to grow and reproduce. But if I guide that growth in a specific direction, I can make it produce compounds that inhibit its own spread while becoming safe for consumption." "That doesn't make sense." "Sure it does. It's how sourdough works. You cultivate the right bacteria and yeast, and they prevent the wrong ones from growing. The bread stays safe because the good microbes outcompete the bad ones." He stirred one of the pots. "Same thing here. I'm making the fungus compete with itself." The breakthrough came 3 weeks into the process. Daejung had created a fermentation medium that neutralized the plague fungus's deadly properties while concentrating its nutritional value. The resulting paste was thick, brown, and smelled strongly of umami. "Tastes like miso," Sung-ho declared after trying it. "Really, really strong miso." Daejung brought a sample to the medical team. They tested it on volunteer soldiers from different species. The Drakens reported a pleasant, savory flavor. The Nexarans found it acceptable. Even the Metharians, typically unable to process organic compounds, could consume it in small amounts without harm. Within 6 weeks, the plague was eradicated. Not through warfare or chemical weapons, but through fermentation. Daejung had turned a deadly fungus into a food source, and in doing so, removed its ability to spread uncontrollably. Soldiers across Thresh were eating the plague faster than it could grow. The Galactic Defense Force awarded Daejung a civilian commendation. He accepted it awkwardly, more concerned about getting back to his restaurant. "I was only gone 2 months, he said to Hyun when they returned to the station. "Please tell me you didn't burn the place down." "Better than that. We expanded the menu. Bo-Ra found 3 more biohazards we can use as seasonings." "Ended ah." "Right. Bo-Ra found it ah." "Bo-Ra found it ah." Of course she did. Earth's Corner reopened with a new sign. Under the restaurant's name, it now read, "Extreme Cuisine Facility. Certified safe by Galactic Defense Force. Humans only unless otherwise specified." The dining room was packed. Aliens filled the viewing gallery, watching in fascination as humans ate their way through substances classified as dangerous. The menu had grown to include items from a dozen different worlds, all of them potentially lethal to non-humans. All of them delicious to humans, with the right preparation. Jiwoo sat at her usual table with Dr. Quinn, who had become a regular presence in the restaurant. The amphibian scientist was writing a paper on human digestion that would win several prestigious awards. "I still don't fully understand it," Quinn admitted, watching Daejung work in the open kitchen. "How your species turned the thing every other species fears into a culinary tradition." "We didn't have a choice," Jiwoo said. "Earth was hostile. Everything on it tried to kill us. We learned to kill it back and then we learned to eat it. And somewhere along the way, we learned to make it taste good. The rest of the galaxy finds it terrifying. Good. Keeps them from stealing our food. In the kitchen, Daejung finished plating a dish and handed it to Hyun for service. He caught Jiwoo's eye across the room and smiled. She raised her glass in a silent toast. The documentary crew that had been filming for the past week asked for a final interview. Daejung agreed, sitting down after the dinner rush had ended. "You've become famous across the galaxy," the interviewer said. "The human who cooks with biohazards. The chef who ended a plague with fermentation. How does it feel?" "Weird," Daejung admitted. "I'm just a cook. I took what I knew and applied it to new ingredients. That's what chefs do. But you're not just a chef anymore. You're a symbol. Proof that humans can survive things that kill other species. Maybe." Daejung thought about it. "But I prefer to think of it differently. I'm proof that cooking is universal. Every culture, every species, has to figure out how to turn raw ingredients into food. We just happen to have ingredients that started out trying to kill us. And that doesn't scare you? Why would it? My grandmother's kimchi could probably strip paint off a hull, and I ate that every day growing up. Compared to her cooking, a level 9 biohazard is mild." The interview ended. The crew packed up. Daejung locked the restaurant door and looked around at the empty dining room. Tomorrow, they'd do it all again. More customers, more experiments, more opportunities to turn danger into flavor. Hyun came out of the kitchen, drying his hands. "Think we'll ever run out of biohazards to cook with?" "Not likely," Daejung said. "The galaxy's a big place. Plenty of things out there trying to kill us. Might as well eat them first." They turned off the lights and headed home, leaving behind a restaurant that had changed the way the galaxy thought about humans. Not as conquerors or warriors, or even explorers. As chefs who looked at the most dangerous substances in known space and asked the most human question possible. "Can I use this as seasoning?"